I did a lot of West Side Stories, which, if you know, it's a lot of dancing, a lot of fight choreography, a lot of jumping around. You're doing sometimes 2 shows a day, 9 shows a week. That's when I started. I remember going on the stage. It was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, at the Dutch Apple Theater. Going on stage, the curtain was down, but doing like stretches before the show. I'd never done that before. Stretches and also some core work, which is maybe a little Pilates based. Then I started studying Pilates a little bit more. Then I would start doing little classes with some of the other cast members wherever I was working, because when you're doing shows like that, especially if you're doing a repertory, so you're doing maybe 4 shows in rep over a summer, so every night's a different one, you're in rehearsals a lot during the day. It's just a recipe for disaster if your body is tight.
I'm Brandon Vaidyanathan, and this is Beauty at Work, a podcast about how beauty shapes our world and the work that we do. In this season, we're looking at beauty in science. This episode is sponsored by Templeton Religion Trust and the Institute for Advanced Catholic Studies at the University of Southern California. More about them later in the show.
Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm so thrilled that we have today on our podcast Sean Vigue. That's Coach Vigue, Vogue with an I, as he likes to put it. Sean is one of the most followed yoga, Pilates, power yoga, flexibility training, and performance-enhancing instructors in the world, with millions of followers in every corner of the world, from beginners to elite professional athletes. Sean is a best-selling author. His titles include Pilates for Athletes, Power Yoga for Athletes, Pilates for Men, and other titles. He's produced thousands of online workout videos, many of which I have watched and worked out with, a full DVD line, his own podcast, and he loves teaching at fitness conferences. Before diving into the exciting world of fitness, he worked as a professional opera and musical theater performer in theaters around the world for over 10 years and over 40 shows. And in his spare time, he's an amateur film, opera, and classical music historian and MST3K fanatic. It's Mystery Science Theater. So is that all still current, Sean?
It is. I was just watching some Mystery Science Theater last night. So I was
Great.
like, yeah, I remember writing this bio. Yeah, it's very current.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I'm really grateful you've taken the time to chat with me. I'm a big fan of your work. I found your videos about 5 or 6 years ago, I think, when I was recovering from an injury. And I think, like a lot of guys, I like to work out or just jump right into sports without any warm-up, any conditioning, and then ended up with a number of injuries, including a couple of herniated discs. So watching your Pilates and yoga videos has been really, working out with them has been really helpful for me. So thank you for putting your work out there.
My pleasure, Brandon. My pleasure.
Listen, I want to ask you about how you got into this sort of interesting combination of music and fitness. What was your childhood? Where did you grow up, and what did you love to do as a kid?
My childhood. I actually grew up in Southern California in a city called Manhattan Beach. My dad was from Milwaukee area, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My mom was from Iowa, and they both ventured out to California in the early 60s, and that's where they met. And got married in 65, I believe. My sister came along in 68. I came along in 1974. So we lived out there from 74 to 79, pretty close to the beach. My dad was an aerospace engineer. He was in the Army, and then on the GI Bill, he got out and went to school and at Northrop Tech, I think, in California, then worked for TRW Systems in Redondo Beach, California, as an aerospace engineer. And he started on the side, he started buying up properties, a lot of rental properties, and even a few oil wells. And then they decided they wanted to raise my sister and I in the Midwest, near where they had grown up. So we moved there in 79, but we still had business out there. So I would spend summers going out there a lot and working on some of the properties and working on the oil wells, and going to the beach and going to Disneyland. It was a very good childhood out in the country in Wisconsin, and some of the summers in Southern California. It was very nice.
Were you outdoors a lot? I mean, because your videos are a lot. Yeah, okay.
Always. We were just talking about that before we went live, that filming my videos, probably 98% of them I film outside. It's the closest thing I feel, one, to therapy. Filming is therapy for me, but also being a kid, because I was always outside, whether it was California or in the country in Wisconsin, running, crawling, jumping, all those things. We have a 4-year-old son, And we're up in Wisconsin right now. We spent a lot of time up here, and it's just amazing because I get so much inspiration here because this is where I grew up and this is where I did all these, where I started, well, becoming who I am now, being outside all the time, playing all the time with sports and with friends and always being very, very active. They were beautiful days before social media and cell phones where you could go out all day long and come home with grass stains all over you, a little beat up, but very
Yeah.
excited that you're out playing all day.
Yeah. I grew up in Oman in the Middle East, and I was out all day, but I don't think I had any appreciation for the
Mm-hmm.
rocks. And I mean, it was just really scorching heat and
Hot.
sand and rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're beautiful mountains there, but I don't think I paid any attention to them. I was out playing soccer and usually just getting sunburn all the time. But as a kid, were you an athlete? Were you into sports a lot? Or like, would you have imagined as a kid getting into fitness as a career down the road?
Well, that's funny because, as a kid, you don't ever think, adults think about fitness. Kids think about
Yeah.
playing. They think about going out and having fun, being in the moment. You play sports, and sports were always very fun to me. My parents are very good. They gave me the option if I wanted to do sports. I did flag football. I played soccer, some basketball, hockey. Hockey was my sport being in Wisconsin. Actually, there's a lake here not far from where I am right now called Lake Neshonoc, and I film by that lake a lot when I'm in town, and that's where I learned to skate for hockey.
Hmm.
All of us 4 and 5 year olds were out there in winter learning how to skate on a frozen lake, and I love that because that doesn't happen much anymore. Now they have an indoor hockey rink here. We had outdoors. Everything was very rugged back then, and that also is why I like filming outside too. I like that the elements can be a little nasty, that it could be a little hot. There could be animals running around. There could be bugs. There could be dirt. Who knows? I mean, there's even poop, you got to watch out for. But I like the idea of, I don't like setting up too much. I find where the sun is. I look at the background. I always have what I'm going to do, and then I just go
Mm.
with it. And that was my childhood a lot too. I can't intellectualize my childhood because it was all instinct. It was all
Sure.
pure joy, a lot of it. I mean, there's always hardships, but you have to have those as well. But that's what I've been doing with my son too, is getting involved in rec programs while we're here. And we were just out playing tennis as a family, which is fun. And I see myself, I think as most dads do, of course, in him all the time.
Mm.
And I see my dad, God bless him, my dad passed away over 6 years ago, but my dad in him. They never met,
Mm.
but I'm the nice middle link between them. And
Mm.
how my dad was with me, I'm very much the same way with my son too. He's
Yeah.
passing it down.
Nice. How
Mhm.
did music fit into the picture when you were a kid? How did that come along?
Music, my parents got my sister and I in piano lessons. And I remember I learned it's the Chinese dance from the Nutcracker on
Mm.
piano, and I memorized that. I just played over and over until I memorized it. I always liked the Nutcracker by Tchaikovsky, and I remember I played that in music class in grade school, and it was like a phenomenon for like a day, because I
Wow.
played this song and I had it memorized and everything. And I think it basically started there. I always liked musicals. I was drawn to musicals. I grew up with the Music Mans, a lot of Oklahoma, a lot of famous movie musicals, and I always thought I like the drama, I like the music, I like the combination of music and action.
Mm.
I
Mm.
like It's like movies, movies how I like musical scores. One of my amateur historian things in my bio, the amateur historian, because I really like researching film and cinema.
Mm.
It's something that gets me up in the morning, that gets me moving.
Wow.
It definitely pertains to fitness as well. It all seems to wrap up together. That's why the fitness career seems to be tailor made from where my childhood came from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's for a lot of people. Like, I mean, I would think of maybe it's just my childhood, but sort of we had the kids who were into music and musical theater and so on, and then you had the jocks and the athletes, and
Hmm.
they were separate groups. Like they didn't really, if you were doing the theater thing, then you weren't really into sports. And I don't know. As you went through, school into high school and into college, did you find those dimensions separating, or were you still able to sort of integrate them? Or
That's a great question. Not where I grew up at West Salem High School here, there wasn't much difference.
mm,
We did South Pacific as a summer musical my junior year, then Oklahoma my senior year. And it was because I played a lot of sports. I bounced all over the place. I never really fit in with one clique. I had a lot of
mm,
interests and I get along with anybody. And so many of the other guys, especially in the musicals, were also athletes. They played football, they played basketball, but we all really loved pitching in and putting on a show because you help out with everything. You help build the sets. You rehearse all day and you perform. It's just so much fun. We used to do it back in the gym. Now they have a theater, a proper theater here, but the gym was really neat. This big old hot sweltering gym, but you would pack 500 or 600 people in there in folding chairs, and you do about 4 or 5 shows. And it was fun because we weren't just the theater people. We just really had a genuine interest in it.
Okay.
And we were in choir. I got into choir because I like to get back rubs from the girls. The girls would always want to get back rubs. You'd sit there before class would start like, oh, my shoulders. How tight was I in high school? But I started that way. And in high school, I wasn't really much of a singer at that point. I played piano and stuff. But it's when I got into college that I started taking voice lessons and then training in Italian opera and German opera and music theater. That was a little later when my voice matured a little more.
Right. Okay. You had, I remember one of your videos, a story about starting to work out because of this girl you wanted to impress. Could you share that? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, her name was Becky. Where I am now, it's actually where she lived is probably not far. It's that way. Maybe like let me flex. There we go.
That's right.
Yep. Oh, let me see that. That's what fitness people do. Okay, it's probably about 7 miles that way. And when was this? Between junior and senior year, I really liked her. She's very pretty. I didn't really know much about her. I just liked her, and I asked her out on a date. And I remember I drove, it was way out in the country. So it's like a 30, 40-minute drive from town. And my fashion sense wasn't that great. It's still not that great, but I'm looking at my calves because I was wearing jean shorts and I was flexing my calves because I was always self-conscious about my legs at that time. And I was flexing my calves. And we went out and we went to McDonald's and saw What About Bob. I remember we're the only ones in the theater. I think we had fun. I don't know if we went out again, but I started working out in my room because of that at night. I would start at like midnight. I had a couple dumbbells and a barbell and maybe a couple other things. And I had a window unit, air conditioner, and I found in my parents' basement. I stuck it up in the window with towels all around it to keep the air in. And I started just working out. And I would climb into bed at like 3 or 4 in the morning and just go to sleep.
Okay.
And I started eating Chef Boyardee ravioli all the time, beef ravioli. I can't eat that anymore. I had it a few years ago. It made me sick. But I just wanted to gain weight. I was really skinny. And once you start working out a little bit and people start noticing, it's catnip. Like, oh, wow. Because I was always kind of short for my age. I was very short. They call me shrimp sometimes. And to get some muscle on me, I went to band camp and people started to notice. My shirts got tighter. And I don't think I ever went out with her again. I don't even know if she has any idea. I've not seen this woman in probably 20, 30 years. But that was the impetus. I remember I did a video on it. Was that like 10 years ago or something? This was the impetus for me to start working out.
Right. Yeah. So then you're in college and you get into musical theater. What was that life like? I mean, an opera. I mean, how did you? What was that? Were you hoping to become you were a professional
professional singer? I went in actually undeclared because the university in town closed their admissions early, so I went to the private Catholic university called Viterbo. It's in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Fantastic school, and I was undeclared, so I was taking all the core classes, and then I somehow got in with some theater people because I'd always done theater, been very dramatic, and I auditioned, I think, for The Miser by Moliere, and I got in that small part, and that kind of steamrolled everything. I started singing. I started taking voice lessons. I was offered. I played Figaro in The Marriage of Figaro. I played Papageno in The Magic Flute. Sang recitals and concerts and stuff, and did non-musical theater shows also. And my parents at first were kind of hesitant because they didn't know anything about it. But once they started seeing a lot of success, and the theater department and music department were so good. And that's another thing is a lot of times the theater department and music department, they didn't really mix, but I went back and forth all the time. I was doing theater shows and directing and playwriting. And then I would go up to the 4th floor and mingle with the music majors and sing and take lessons and do recitals and do opera. So, it's that kind of classical education model that I'm actually studying a lot right now in regards to my son, classical education. I naturally kind of gravitated towards that in a way. I'm like, just soak up as much as you can. And in the world of theater, if you're going to go professional, I mean, you just have to have an arsenal in you. The better you can sing, the better you can move, carry yourself. And you want, like any great profession, longevity. And
Yeah.
that's where the fitness came in as well.
Right. Because you were, if I recall, you had to dance, and then you need to figure out how to build.
I wasn't a natural dancer. I just never thought that way. I was a park and bark, where you stand and you sing. Park and bark. I had a girlfriend. I did summer theater up in Big Fork, Montana a couple of times, and she just said, "You have heavy feet." And she was right. My feet were just heavy. I never realized that. In the world of fitness now, it's all about awareness, body awareness, but I had very heavy feet. I wore Doc Martens all the time. They're always thumping around on the stage. But mentally, once I was ready for it, and then you want to be a triple threat, sing, act, and dance. You want to be very cohesive. Then it started to open up for me.
Okay. It was around this time you got into Pilates, right? How did that happen?
I used to go to New York a lot because my best friend, Peter, he still has a place on the Upper East Side in Manhattan. And I met him doing theater in Montana at the Big Fork Summer Playhouse. He was just texting me before I started this podcast. He's in New York with his girlfriend. And I used to take a lot of dance classes when I was in New York. I'd go there to audition, see a lot of friends, a lot of girlfriends and stuff. And I would go to Broadway dance. Forget the exact address. Used to take the N or the R, I think, over there. I'm trying to think of these trains I would get up every morning, take over there, and then walk back through Central Park. And it was in those classes that we would do sometimes like a yoga style warm up, also with some Pilates. That was the first time I heard about it. At that time, they had a Pilates class at Broadway Dance. This is probably back like 1999, 2000, around then, when I first started going to New York quite a bit.
Okay. So walk us through like your journey of this, because you were doing theater professionally, right? You were performing night after night, and how did you go from there to then starting to teach Pilates and yoga? What was that?
Start to teach?
Yeah.
Well, I always did fitness. I like the old, what do you really want to do? Well, go buy a magazine rack, and what do you grab first? What do you grab second? What do you gravitate towards? For me, it was always Entertainment Weekly. So that's theater and fitness magazines. So I liked those two together. And when I was doing theater a lot, I always would go to the gym. Usually theaters would provide a free gym membership, so I would do that. Squeeze it in whenever I could. I made it the habit. I want to go to the gym. But that was before I even started doing Pilates and yoga. Really, I just did bench and squat and lifted heavy. I was about 25 pounds heavier than I am now. But it was doing West Side Stories. I did a lot of West Side Stories, which, if you know, it's a lot of dancing, a lot of fight choreography, a lot of jumping around. You're doing sometimes 2 shows a day, 9 shows a week. That's when I started. I remember going on the stage. It was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, at the Dutch Apple Theater. Going on stage, the curtain was down, but doing like stretches before the show. I'd never done that before. Stretches, and also some core work, which is maybe a little Pilates based. Then I started studying Pilates a little bit more. Then I would start doing little classes with some of the other cast members wherever I was working, because when you're doing shows like that, especially if you're doing a repertory, so you're doing maybe 4 shows in rep over a summer. So every night's a different one. You're in rehearsals a lot during the day. It's just a recipe for disaster if your body is tight, if you're not singing properly, if you're not getting enough sleep, not taking care of yourself. I was in my 20s then. I'm 49 now, but it's like 24, 25. Even then, people get injured all the time. So Pilates and yoga, stuff like that, you could do it anywhere. So I started doing those kind of classes with some of the cast members. You didn't
yourself have to deal with injuries, or did you?
I had a back injury doing Fiddler on the Roof at Actors Playhouse in Coral Gables. That was back in 2004. I was the Russian. I always played the Russian in Fiddler on the Roof. Fieka. Do you know Fiddler?
Yeah.
Fame. It's a long musical. It's a classic, but Fieka's nice because he's on stage a lot, but when he sings and he takes one of the daughters away. But we were doing that Russian dance where you cross your arms and you go down and up, down and up. And something popped in my lower back. And for a whole week, I was laid out. And I just laid around like with pillows all around me. I was about 29 years old. I wasn't very old. But that was a big one. It's funny. It was after that. And the Pilates for Athletes book that I wrote a couple of years ago, the whole intro is about that injury and how, I could do some massage, I could do this, but unless I took it into my own hands, it wasn't going to get better. And that's when I really discovered Pilates and doing it myself. And up to then, I had not done a lot of core work. I did more weight training, which is great, but I hadn't worked the center, the abdominals, lower back, hips, and glutes. And so that's how I kind of segued into Pilates to get me up and running again.
Yeah. So you had, yeah, I mean, I also recall you had gone to Germany, to the town where Joseph Pilates is from. Is that right? Did you live?
It was. I didn't know it. That was Mönchengladbach in Germany. I went there to teach English for Berlitz because I studied German for a while. And I went to Cologne to learn how. Then I taught for a little bit. Then I came back. But I didn't know that's where he's from. I hadn't really done Pilates. It was back in early 2000s before I had really gotten into it. It was 2004 when I injured myself. So it's like 2003, I think. Summer 2003. Wow, that was 20 years ago. Okay. It was when Attack of the Clones came out because I went and saw it. Angriff der Kriegklone. That was the German one. I saw it in Dusseldorf. I think it was in English. So, and everyone drank beer in the theater, which I thought was really fun because it was Germany. But yeah, I went over there for a bit, trying to find myself like we're doing all the time. And then I came back, and that's when I jumped back into theater, I think. And then I jumped into teaching not long after that, maybe a couple of years after that. I started setting myself up for that.
Yeah.
You're listening to Beauty at Work. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Templeton Religion Trust as part of a grant on the aesthetic dimensions of science. Templeton Religion Trust supports projects as well as storytelling related to projects that seek to enrich the conversation about religion. To learn more about them, visit templetonreligiontrust.org. This episode is also sponsored by the Institute for Advanced Catholic Studies, a global research center located at the University of Southern California. IACS works to create dialogue, spark ideas, and sustain academic research on Catholic thought, creative imagination, and lived experience. Learn more at iacs.usc.edu. If you're enjoying the show so far, please subscribe to our podcast and take a moment to leave us a review.
Did you have to stop, put a stop to your theater career and say this is not happening, or how did that?
When I went to Germany?
No, I suppose between when you start getting introduced to Pilates and start doing this seriously, and then starting to teach, what happens to your music career at this point? And did you make a conscious decision to stop that, or?
Well, the nice thing is that contracts usually last like 3 to 4 months. So you can do a contract, and I mean, the goal was for a long time, for many years, just to work. Once you stop, maybe a couple weeks off to go see my parents or go to New York, do something, and then jump into another theater, another contract. But I started off as a personal trainer. I did that. I took my test in Miami. I was actually doing another production of Fiddler on the Roof at the Hollywood Playhouse in Hollywood, Florida. I like to shout out these theaters because a lot of them are still there. They're still cooking. Yeah. And I did that. And in the evenings, I was studying for my personal trainer exam through ACE. So I went down to Miami and took that test. And then once I stopped that contract, that was like a 4-month contract with Hollywood Playhouse. It was great. Stopped that. And then I went and personal trained for a few months at a club called Club Fit down in Fort Lauderdale. I did that, which was very different because I just stopped cold. I've been doing theater for about 10 years, I think, straight. Oh. And then I went to the gym and I did that. And then I moved up to Orlando area. And then I would jump back and forth. I did stuff with Orlando Opera, and then I personal trained. And then it was in Central Florida where I got certified for Pilates and yoga.
Okay. And then was it teaching fitness from that point on, or did you continue doing music?
I started taking the classes, and I did some certification. Actually, what I first taught was spinning, indoor cycling. I did that a few classes, and the manager it used to be called Celebration Health, she fired me, and I still don't know why. She fired me over a voicemail, pissed me off. But, and this is a Vigue thing. My dad's the same way. I thought, well, this is just going to really embolden me to see what else I can do in this fitness business. I just started off. Personal training is one thing, but leading a spinning class is different. You're in front of people. And I was eventually hired back there, actually. And I taught some yoga there and Pilates, and I taught spin for a number of years. But yeah, I was fired. They fired Coach Vigue. And I still don't know why. I remember I called her back. She would not talk to me. She would not.
Huh.
She ran from me. And I
Huh.
was nothing but professional and polite. I went and talked to her bosses and everything. Like, here's the deal, you know. But that was the drive to get me certified in Pilates, yoga. And then I went over to Disney World, and then everything just exploded after that.
Yeah, say more about, yeah, so you were teaching at Disney?
Actually, it was the woman who fired me who recommended I talk to this guy who managed a gym over at Team Disney, where my wife used to work. This huge building. It's also called Mouskatraz, because it's just massive. It's right across the street from downtown Disney, which is now Disney Springs. And I went over there and I talked to him, and we set up, I think, a Pilates class. And I started teaching that. That was the end of 2005. And no one came to the first class. One lady came to the second one, and I celebrated by going to Target, buying some DVDs. And then there was the Christmas break, and I came back early January, and like 15 people showed up, and a whole bunch of them were from Animal Kingdom. They were salary cast members, and they said, "We love you. Come on over here to Animal Kingdom cast services." So I did that, and then I got into cast activities through Walt Disney World, and they put me all Disney University, feature animation, Imagineering. I taught there for a few years. So I would go once or twice a day and do a class for the cast members. And I would do some fitness conferences for them sometimes. And I did that for about 9 years at Disney. I got in trouble once because in a video, I don't remember saying it, but I said, "Hey, I'm Disney's yoga and Pilates guy." And someone saw that, said, "You can't say that." So I had to put a little disclaimer on it. It's like, I'm not really. I don't even remember saying that, but the Disney lawyers wanted to have a talk with me. I'm like, I don't want that. So so I could just say I'm an outside vendor, but it was phenomenal. I even did lunchtime classes a lot.
Okay.
And they were like 3-month contracts. You do a class of 3 months. You go find a conference room. Everyone clears all the desks and chairs to the side. You do it, put them back, and you leave. And it's a wonderful experience.
You weren't doing theater or music at this time at all?
I didn't have time for it. No, I don't think I was. I started doing videos in 2009, and I started teaching at Disney around that time too, I think. So everything was kind of in its early gestations, kind of I'm still feeling everything, but what can I do with this? And YouTube was still pretty young.
Yeah.
We didn't have the capabilities we have now for all these live videos. There were some live videos, but the quality was so bad and didn't know how to market them. But I think, Brandon, in the last 20 years, I've tried about everything. I've had a good time seeing what works and seeing what doesn't.
Yeah. Did you miss theater and music? I mean, as you
I did, but doing fitness does fulfill a lot of those needs that I have. Like to be in front of people and to teach people is very neat. It's an interesting job. Like you say, do this, and everybody does it. You scratch your nose, and half the class scratches their nose. They did that today. I think I'm like, oh, I itched the back of my head, and half I'm like, okay, that's a good stretch. Tricep stretch. Oh, flex my arm. There we go. And but I do miss it sometimes. But I was getting burned out. You can only do something so long. And the way I am is I jumped head first into it. I never just did a show here and there. I worked all the way through. And even when I wasn't working, I was learning new repertoire. I was taking dance classes. I was keeping myself in shape. Networking, which is probably the most important thing if you want to keep working, is networking. I was always I slept, 8, drank, and slept theater for about 12, 13 years, I think.
How would you, evaluate that? There are a lot of people who, my wife, her background is in opera performance, and she kind of she got burnt out by the end of college. She just felt it was just too... Yeah, I don't know. So she never performed professionally, but it's a difficult world for a lot of people. But were you thriving in it, or were you?
Well, one thing is I sang opera, but I was not. I didn't do opera. I did do opera, like Orlando Opera. I did some, smaller roles with them. Right. I sang around, but the opera world is brutal. I used to subscribe to Opera News. What voice type is your wife? Soprano. Was she interested at the time before she got burned out, but taking it into the professional world?
She was, yeah. The thing that really, one of the things that, there were many things that discouraged her from going forward. One of them was just the being on the road all the time and not getting to. She was like, how am I going to, I want to start a family. I don't see how that's compatible with this. And she knew friends who were, in a different city every week, and she didn't, that wasn't appealing to her. But then there was also just a lot of like nepotism. You had to, in order to get the role you wanted, you had to, suck up to this person or sleep with that person. I mean, that was the kind
Oh yeah.
of environment. Yeah. So she was like, that's not
Some of
me.
that's come out recently, I've heard. It's brutal because it demands such perfection. I
Hmm.
mean, Pavarotti was booed. He
Hmm.
was booed at La Scala. I mean, that's just the Italians, though, I think. But he cracked on
Right.
a high C, and they booed him.
Yeah.
They booed Roberto Alagna. That's just how it is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
that's how the opera world is. I read opera news and just the reviews and like, oh, it was an amazing performance, but boom, 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 boom. But that's
Right.
the
Right.
critic. And one of my best friends, I'm actually going to see him tomorrow. His wife is from St. Petersburg, Russia, and she's a professional opera singer.
Huh.
And I love talking to him about the world of opera because he used to work with a lot of operatic basses from Russia. He would bring them to Europe and the States to perform. So, I like to bend his ear because I'm fascinated by the opera world. And I know it's something I would never want to go into because my mind is not that exact
Mm.
to just have to, put that out all the time. I adore opera though. I've been teaching my son about classical music and opera. We play these fun CDs or albums where they put fun lyrics with classic melodies. Then we just listen to the melody after that. I
Yeah.
love that. I love getting those into his brain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you do a fantastic job of. I mean, so your fitness videos, I find them very entertaining because you have the theater background's very very clear. You've almost got an improv sensibility, because you come up with really sort of witty, funny things all the time. Um,
Hopefully. Uh,
yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
I just talk. I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm glad you like it. I can't. Whenever I hit record, I just talk like I normally would.
Yeah, it feels like going out for a run with a friend or something. That's what it's like,
Yeah.
which is what I find. Yeah, yeah. I mean, compared to like, all right, next set, next rep. So yeah, so there's more than just the fitness. There's this almost self-disclosure. Like I learn about your life. I learn about about Addie, about your son, about your parents, and
Oh, little
so,
Eddie, I'm just chomping at the bit. I have a regulator in my head that's on all the time when I film.
mm,
But how much should I say?
mm,
I'm always living in the past, present, and future when I film all the time because I'm
mm,
I'm in the past. I'm thinking, okay, where were we? And then present, what are you doing now? Where do I want to take this? And then also, there's what do I want to? How much do I want to say about what we're doing? How much do I want to talk about things that just pop into my head? Because the movement sparks so much
yeah,
imagination and creativity with me. I don't know if it's like that with everybody, but when I move, my brain just explodes. I have all these great ideas, and I want to
right,
talk about things or thing. And it's Sean Vigue Fitness. I'm not part of some larger corporation or
right,
something. It's my name with fitness
yeah,
at the end. So once in a while, someone will say, you talk too much. I'm like, no, I talk exactly as much as I'm supposed to. That's
right,
just what I do. I can't, if I don't talk much, everyone's like, why aren't you talking? So, I want to talk. I want to share things. I want to share anecdotes.
yeah,
I want to, as you said, I want people to think like they know me. I don't have any affectations. I'm not going to feed you a bunch of BS about yourself. I don't know you. I'm just going to talk about life and
yeah.
and challenges and inspirations.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's great. It's great. How did the books come about? How did you decide to start writing?
I was in the parking lot at Disney University waiting to go in to teach, and I got an email from Fair Winds Press. I had never thought about writing a book, and they
Mm.
reached out to me and said, "Hey, we have this idea for a yoga for athletes book, and we're looking for an author." We kept doing searches of yoga for athletes and such, and you kept popping up. And they wanted to talk to me. And then the next, I wrote back. I never thought about writing a book, but I talked to, what was her name? Jessica. She was great on the phone, and we got it set up, and that led to my first major book. And then I started also writing ebooks, and I went through a period of like a year where I cranked out about 5 or 6 of them, and then I got Pilates for Athletes was with another major publisher called Hatherley Press, and I did that. But I never thought I would write fitness books. That was a nice little add-on, but it encapsulates everything I've done. You take everything you do and put it onto parchment. You put it onto a book.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, if you want to see a representation of what I do, here's one of my books.
yeah, yeah. How was the writing process for you? And a lot of people struggle with writing, but did that come naturally? Was it? How was it for you?
Well, if you have a good editor, it's okay. I write like I talk, which
Okay.
is good. My grammar, my syntax or grammar can suffer a little bit, but they want they want my voice
Yeah.
for the book, and I'm not that wordy. I like to get right to the exercises.
Sure.
I can write stuff. I know there's other fitness books out there where people will spend 20 or 30 pages talking about their journey. And like, who reads that? I don't even think your family members would read that because you probably tell them all the time. So I like to just get right into it and say, you want this, do this. You want this, do this. Because it's the movement that does the real speaking. But I adore having books. I like having something physical in a digital world. The books are also digital, but I was at Barnes and Noble actually yesterday. I dropped my son off at karate camp, and then I popped over there because I know the manager, and they always have me come in and sign books here
Uh,
in La Crosse, and just had and he's John. Shout out to John at Barnes and Noble in La Crosse. He's fantastic. He's like, do whatever you want, go film. So I take the books, and I went to the stage in the children's area. Nobody was there. I don't film when anyone's around, but then I was getting ideas to do these fun videos. They had a couple of my books there, so I was doing that. It's a nice other facet to the Sean Vigue fitness brand.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the theater part too. If you want to bring some of the theater in, just doing things with the books,
Yeah.
filming little short videos.
Yeah. Yeah. How has this been for you? I mean, getting onto YouTube and getting a following there, that whole process of filming. I mean, do you find? I suppose would you call this mode of working beautiful? Is there beauty in it for you?
Oh yeah, I like your podcast title, Brandon. I like that. I mean, how often do we really look for beauty in things? I tell my son that all the time, like always be thankful. Be thankful all the time. I said it's a beautiful day, Dane. Look at this. If he's complaining about something. And I say it for myself too. But I find in its own way the movement, the creativity behind it, and the I mean, years ago, it wouldn't make any sense. Like, I'm going to film this workout video and I'm going to upload it to a place called YouTube or wherever. And somebody over in Australia or Japan or Italy is going to do it with me. You know, they're going to do it and then they're going to comment about it. And if I see it, maybe I'll answer their comment. Back in the day in grade school, we would write a little letter and tie it to a balloon and we'd all let the balloons go. And no one ever wrote me back. I always picture my balloon was stuck in a swamp somewhere.
Uh-huh.
We were up in Wisconsin. Somebody got somebody in Florida. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That's why I love I was telling my wife these podcasts like this because it's so great to talk about. Because there's not a lot of people who do this online fitness thing. There's only a handful of us. I'm friends with a lot of them. That's why I love talking with them too, because it's such an interesting way to make a living or a partial living. But yeah, I see beauty in that Lake Neshonoc behind me yesterday. I filmed and I just stood there for a couple minutes and had all these memories, and I just love it up here. I keep pushing it back. I don't want to go back to Florida. I like being up here with the hills and the streams and everything. It's quiet too.
Yeah, yeah, no, it does. I mean, yeah, I mean, it really, yeah. This was one of the things that really struck me about the videos that you do is you were sharing not just the beauty of movement, which I think is also really important, and of conditioning and flexibility and these things which we neglect if we're focused on just sort of fitness for the sake of aesthetics, or just trying to compete, right? I think that's neglected. But then the beauty of nature comes through, and then you're having fun doing this. But do talk about that, the conditioning aspect and the movement aspect too, because I mean you mention it a lot in your videos and how important it is to feel healthy, and there's so much emphasis, it seems, in the fitness industry more generally, just on the aesthetic aspects, right? Yeah. What is that?
Well, I live and die a lot on inspiration, which gets me into trouble too. You know, I have to work on balance. Balance is very important. Balance in the brand, because sometimes you love it so much you can't stop. It's like, no, I got to pull back for a bit. But I do strength training. I'm a guy. I like to see the muscles pop out. That's why I started working out, was to impress a girl. But I just turned 49 a little over a week ago, and I've always liked feeling good. It goes back to being a child, to being a kid, and running, jumping, playing. I just wrote out a new series. I've been dabbling in a series of videos for new dads or dads in general, especially new dads, because I get so many emails and comments, Brandon, from dads like, "Oh, I tweaked my back lifting my child because um, the baby." Do you have children?
I have just 6 children, so
You have. Why am I telling you?
well,
I have two,
well,
if you count Addie.
so,
How are you even have time to do this? Wow,
I have
that's incredible.
I have no hobbies, so this is it. So yeah,
This is good. This is
yeah.
your free time. Well,
Yes.
congratulations.
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
6.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's part of the reason for, I mean, like, why, following your videos and so on is just so that I can pick up my kids and not, not injure myself as I, as I play with them.
Exactly. You don't know what you're going to do with them. I was just writing out a series last night. I'm like, okay, if you like to run better with your child, do this exercise. There's Dane right outside the door. To crawl better, to jump better. I was going to do some short videos with him, and he likes to film with me a lot. I don't. His attention span may go, but
Sure.
grab him while I can. But that's a big niche that I have a huge niche with workouts for men, yoga for men, Pilates for men. So I want to bring that into dads as well. It's like authors, you say, write what you know a lot, which doesn't always make sense because George Lucas wrote Star Wars. What the hell did he know about, outer space? He made it all up. But, you write what you're experiencing because that's what you're passionate about. And, I like to get my son involved too, healthy living, healthy movement.
Yeah.
So what was the question? Was it I was zoned out. My son was.
Yeah, I don't know, just about the contrast between the emphasis on mobility and conditioning versus what seems like the dominant emphasis on the aesthetic aesthetics of fitness.
Mm-hmm. What I teach enables people to move much more cohesively and fluidly into the aesthetic aspect, because aesthetic comes more with the weight training, with the HIIT training, the cardio training, the intense stuff. So my basis, what I do, what I tell people is, make your basis core strength and flexibility training, because that will enhance anything else you do. Anything from powerlifting to gardening, it will enhance that if you have a strong center and a pliable, mobile body.
Yeah, no, it's great.
And there's the beauty, right? Is that the beauty?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, certainly, yeah. I mean, I think that, feeling human. I mean, not human in the sort of broken sense, but in our capacity for strength and flexibility and so on is crucial. Mm-hmm. It also seems like the kind of, I'd be curious to know, just with yoga and Pilates, there's also ways of sort of getting in touch with your body and sort of with breath and with, more of a sense of presence. I mean, is that, some people have a sort of a spiritual aspect to yoga in particular. Mm-hmm. Does that matter for you? And how does that feature into what you're doing?
It can. The nice thing is I tell people I'm a Christian. So I pray a lot when I train on my own. I just pray and always give thanks for that. And I tell people, like, you can, it's movement. The movement can unlock whatever you want it to unlock. I can't control that. Only you can bring that in. You can take it as far as you want. You can keep it as just a merely physical workout. You can make it a mental workout. You can make it a spiritual workout. I say I'm merely a guide. Right. I have my own uses for it, which can fluctuate as well. But I get comments and like, thanks for not bringing in such and such. I'm like, well, I'm not going to preach at you. I don't do that. I know some fitness instructors get kind of preachy about things, and like, no, I stay away from that. You can buy me a drink, I'll tell you what I think about things, but I'm not going to do it in a class. I like to keep it very neutral and take it as far as you want. Take it wherever you want. Just don't hit the person next to you, I guess.
Right. Are there, for people who have not really spent much time trying out yoga or Pilates, how would you, what would you recommend? How would you distinguish them? Who should try what? Are there any tips you have for people who've not really pursued either of these?
Well, if you've never done it, it just depends what you're comfortable with. And we have YouTube. I mean, there's no shortage of online instructors. I would say, find my stuff and go to YouTube, type in Sean Vigue, my name, Vogue, but with an I, and write in what you want. You want beginner stretch, you want beginner core, you want beginner yoga, and you can find it. And there's multiple workouts. There's so many different ones. You can scan through it, watch it first. And really, that's what's nice about, I find more with men, is some men go to classes, but most of them like to work out solo, like the warrior mindset. They like to do it at home. like in my classes here in town, I think I have 2 guys and like 30 women that come to the classes. That includes Pilates. So a lot of guys will say, "Hey, I didn't come to class, but I did your workout, at home." They like that. They like that a little bit more. So you find what works for you. You got plenty of options. Some people like the live class. Like, do you like going to a concert or listening to it on your headphones? Just depends. Uh, there's really no way to make it more accessible to people. People ask me how I can make it more accessible. I'm like, well, it's there. Take it if you want it. It's free.
Yeah.
It's right there in front of you. Make it your own. Enjoy.
Yeah. Great. John, what's next for you? What do you see the next few years having in store? Are there things you're aspiring to do, plans, aspirations?
Oh, well, I'm working on a new book, Fitness for Kids. That's not the title, but ties into what we were talking about.
Ah,
That'd be good for you.
yeah.
Fitness for 6 kids.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
and I started it. I was sitting at a Books A Million. I like to go write in bookstores. I was in Central Florida, and I was thinking about when I go to the playground with my son and watching how he moves and adapts and interacts with other kids and interacts with all the playground equipment. It's basically movement and athletics 101, just watching a 3 and 4-year-old do that, and how quickly he adapts, and how one day your heart's in your throat watching him do something, and the next he's fine.
Yeah.
Within the span of maybe a minute. It just depends. Like, he was swinging on the bars, all this stuff, and it never bothered me. If a number of weeks ago, I'm like, oh, okay, Dane, I'm not a helicopter parent, but you just kind of want to.
Yeah.
I actually caught him yesterday. He would have fallen pretty bad. I did catch him, but you can't always be there to catch him.
Yeah,
That's just that's life. But yeah, that book, I've been tinkering with it. I've gotten more serious about it. It's just, I'm a little ADHD. I'm sure people can tell that. So getting the thoughts from here, boom, down in the laptop or down on a piece of paper. But that's a big one. I was just in a national commercial for apartments.com too.
Huh.
They contacted me because some of the people with their ad agency do my workouts. So it's on YouTube. You can go to apartments.com and just scroll down a bit. And you'll see the the screenshots, me and Jeff Goldblum.
Okay.
The video is from when I lived in Colorado. Then they had him just walk onto the screen, and I'm doing this funny boat pose thing.
Okay.
I love stuff like that. I've been in a few movies. I get, hey, can we use your video for this? Sign a contract. Well, then they pay you pretty well just to use it. So that'd be cool to get more national commercials like that. And my family and I are looking at where we to in regards to Dane. He's 4, but where we really want to be, because we have to decide kind of one place for his schooling and stuff. So that's something we need to work on also. I don't have as many hours to work on the fitness brand as I used to because of Dane, but that's perfectly fine. I don't mind. I work when I can, and I spend a lot of time with my son, whether enrolling him in camps or things, or just spending a lot of time with him. I love spending time with him. We go out and go fishing. We go read. We learn. We're always learning something. So that's, being a dad is just the most incredible thing, and that's what I focus on the most.
Awesome. Do you have any advice for folks who are in the fitness industry, who are trying to figure out how to live it in a more beautiful way, I suppose?
I've mentored a lot of other instructors, especially in regards to doing videos, because videos can scare the heck out of people, because it's really putting yourself out there to critique. I always say, find what style of fitness really makes you come alive. Focus on that. Don't try to do something that you think people want to see, but you're not that comfortable with it. A lot of times society will say you can do anything you want. I said, yeah, but focus on your strengths, and things can build off of that. But find the things that make you come alive. And like you said with me, you can tell I really enjoy what I do. You don't want to watch somebody who looks confused or distracted or painful. It's just painful. You're like, oh, what are they talking about? Why are they doing this? They don't seem happy about it. So find that and focus on that first, and just do it. Teach film, get out there and do it. You got to make yourself uncomfortable. It has to be uncomfortable for a while, and then it'll fall into place. Once you get that out of the way. In theater, if I didn't audition for a while, I'd be so nervous about auditioning, going up in front of people I don't know, or a big cattle call. But after doing it a few times, start feeling good about it, and you relax. and there's the flow right there.
Yeah, that's great. It's amazing to see how you've integrated your theater background and then certainly your love of nature into the work you're doing now. So that's fantastic.
Well, it's good to hear that because I just do it. It's nice to hear someone say it. It makes you appreciate it more because some things are just instinct, right? You just go out, this is what I do. I love it, but it's nice to intellectualize it sometimes. So thank you for that. That's why I love being on like podcasts like yours. It's so great to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
It energizes me.
Great. I'm so glad. Well, that's it for my questions. I don't know if there's anything else that came to mind you want to share on this topic on what beautiful work looks like, what it means to you.
No, I really like that theme, Brandon. That's great. Beautiful work. It's a very grateful theme. And if you're going to do something, no matter what it is, do it with integrity, do it with honesty and focus. I think that's a wonderful thing to teach people.
Awesome. Great. Well, Sean, thank you. Such a pleasure. Really delightful to meet you.
My pleasure too, Brandon.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this episode of Beauty at Work. Please be sure to check out our show notes for more resources from our guest. And if you like this episode, please be sure to share it with your friends. And please leave us an honest review. We'd love to hear what you think, and it helps to get the word out about our show. Music for the show was provided by Venkat Subramaniam, and the podcast was edited by Dave Visaya from Podcast Engineers. And thanks again to our two sponsors, Templeton Religion Trust and the Institute for Advanced Catholic Studies at the University of Southern California. To learn more about our research project on beauty and science, visit wellbeinginscience.com. To learn more about our broader project on beauty at work, visit beautyatwork.net. Thanks again, and see you next time.